Avoid this mistake if you want peace of mind. So many of us believe that the key to happiness lies in constantly avoiding hardship, suppressing emotions, or striving for perfection. But what if that mindset is holding us back from real growth? Don't believe the myth that inner peace comes from eliminating discomfort. In fact, the opposite is true. If you want to find true strength, wisdom, and calm in life, you need to embrace your emotions, still your mind in the midst of chaos, and accept life as it is, imperfections and all. In this video, we're diving deep into some of the most powerful Stoic principles. How to acknowledge your emotions without letting them control you. How to find stillness in life's most chaotic moments. And how to accept your fate with grace. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by life or found yourself wishing for things to be different, you're not alone. And these timeless ideas might just be the key to living with more clarity and peace. Let's explore together how these ancient practices can transform our modern lives. Number 1. Harness the power of movement for emotional healing. Picture this: a sunny day, the air is crisp, and you step outside feeling the warmth on your skin. Maybe it's just a simple walk in the park or a few stretches in your living room. But as you move, something magical happens. The weight of the world seems to lift a little, your mind clears, and even the smallest worries seem more manageable. It's incredible how the simple act of moving your body can shift your perspective, right? Whether you're dancing, running, or just strolling down a quiet street, you can almost feel the spark of life returning, as if your body is waking up from a long slumber. Each step, each stretch, feels like a gentle reminder that you're still here, that life is still happening, and you're part of it. This is more than just a fleeting feeling. It's a powerful, time-tested remedy for loneliness and depression. The Stoics knew this well. They understood that movement is more than a way to stay fit. It's a vital tool for healing the mind and spirit. When you move your body, you're not just burning calories or staying active. You're engaging in a dialogue with your inner self. You're telling yourself that you're capable of facing life's challenges head-on. You're reminding yourself that even in the darkest of times, you still have control over something: your body, your actions, your effort. Seneca once said that it is not the things themselves that disturb people, but their judgments about those things. And when you move, when you take action, you're shifting your judgment from helplessness to empowerment. Think back to when you were a child, running around without a care in the world. Remember those moments when life felt so simple? The days where you'd ride your bike or play outside with friends, not worrying about anything but the next adventure. Back then, movement was a form of play, and it brought joy and freedom. As we grow older, we lose some of that innocence, and movement becomes less about joy and more about obligations. Exercise routines, gym schedules, or just something to check off the list. But what if we could return to that childlike state where movement felt freeing, where it wasn't about getting fit, but about feeling alive? What if, in your everyday life, you could tap into that same sense of liberation? What if, through movement, you could reconnect with that part of yourself that knows how to feel joy, even in the smallest of ways? The Stoics believed that our physical actions can shape our mental landscape. So what if the key to emotional healing isn't as far away as it seems? What if it's right there, in your next step, waiting for you to rediscover it? Number 2. Cultivate self-compassion. Be your own best friend. Imagine for a moment that you're talking to your best friend. Maybe they've had a rough day or they're feeling down about something. What do you say? You probably offer words of kindness, reassurance, maybe even a little encouragement. You tell them, hey, it's okay. You're doing your best. You'll get through this. It feels good to support them, to remind them of their worth. And if you think about it, don't we all need someone in our corner like that? Someone to lift us up when we're feeling low? Now, here's a wild idea. What if that someone could be you? The Stoics taught that one of the most powerful tools we have in fighting loneliness and depression is the ability to be our own ally, to cultivate self-compassion. It sounds simple, but how often do we actually practice it? Instead, we are our own harshest critics, quick to judge ourselves when we stumble, when we're not perfect, or when life isn't going the way we hoped. But what if you spoke to yourself the way you speak to a close friend? What if, instead of berating yourself for every mistake, you offered understanding and grace? In the ancient world, Stoics like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca emphasized the importance of self-awareness and self-kindness. They knew that harsh self-judgment only deepens feelings of isolation. By being kind to ourselves, we break the cycle of negative thinking and open the door to healing and connection. Think back to a time in your life when someone offered you kindness, perhaps when you didn't even feel like you deserved it. Maybe it was a parent, a teacher, or a friend. They saw you struggling, but instead of criticism, they gave you love and understanding. Remember how that felt? How their words or actions made you feel a little lighter, a little more hopeful. Now imagine being able to give yourself that same gift. Imagine waking up every morning and deciding to treat yourself with the same compassion you offer to the people you care about. After all, you're human too. You're allowed to make mistakes, to feel down, to not have it all together all the time. But what if self-compassion could do more than just help you feel better in the moment? What if it could transform your entire outlook on life? The Stoics believed that true strength comes not from fighting against our imperfections, but from accepting them with grace. So, what if the next step on your journey isn't about being harder on yourself, but about becoming your own best friend? Could that be the key to unlocking a deeper sense of peace and happiness? Number 3. Find contentment in the present. Let go of constant striving. Think about the last time you achieved something you'd been working toward for a long time. Maybe it was a promotion, completing a big project, or reaching a personal goal. For a moment, there was that rush of excitement, the sense of accomplishment. You probably felt on top of the world, like you'd finally arrived. It feels good, doesn't it? That high of success, that feeling of finally getting what you've been chasing. But here's the thing, how long did that feeling last? For most of us, the satisfaction fades quickly, replaced by the next goal, the next ambition, the next thing to achieve. It's as if no matter how much we accomplish, there's always something more. The Stoics had a lot to say about this endless pursuit of more. They believed that true contentment doesn't come from achieving external goals, but from finding peace within ourselves, right here, right now. Seneca warned against the trap of constantly striving for the next big thing, because when we do that, we miss out on the beauty of the present moment. It's like we're always chasing happiness, but never actually catching it. The more we focus on what we don't have, the more disconnected we become from the happiness that's already within our reach. Do you remember a time in your life when things were simpler? Maybe it was before the pressures of adulthood, before the constant comparisons with others. Back then, the world felt smaller, and happiness didn't feel so hard to find. Maybe it was a summer evening, sitting on your porch watching the sunset, or a quiet morning with a cup of coffee, feeling like everything was just as it should be. Those moments of stillness, of being content with what is, are rare, but they're powerful. They remind us that happiness isn't about the next big achievement. It's about appreciating what we have right now. What if, instead of always striving for more, we learn to find joy in the present? What if we could train ourselves to see the value in what we already have instead of constantly focusing on what's missing? The Stoics believed that by practicing gratitude and contentment, we could break free from the cycle of endless striving. So what would your life look like if you stopped chasing the next big thing and started embracing the here and now? Could that be the secret to lasting happiness? Number 4, gain perspective. Viewing life from a higher vantage point. Imagine standing at the top of a hill, looking out over a vast landscape. Below you, everything looks smaller. The trees, the houses, even the people. From up here, the worries and stresses of daily life seem to shrink too. You can feel the cool breeze on your face, and for a moment, it's like you've gained a new sense of clarity. Everything that felt so overwhelming a moment ago now seems more manageable, almost trivial. It's amazing what a little distance can do, right? Just stepping away from the chaos, even for a moment, can make all the difference in how we see things. This is exactly what the Stoics taught us, that gaining perspective can help us find peace in the midst of life's storms. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, often wrote about seeing life from a higher vantage point, like a bird soaring above the earth. He believed that when we step back and look at the bigger picture, we realize that many of our problems are temporary, fleeting, and often smaller than they seem. The Stoics encouraged us to zoom out, to see our struggles in the context of our whole life, our entire existence. When we do that, we realize that the things we're stressed about today are just tiny moments in the grand tapestry of our lives. We're reminded that life is more than just today's struggles. It's an ongoing journey filled with highs and lows, victories and setbacks, and through it all, we're stronger than we think. Think back to a time in your life when you faced a challenge that felt insurmountable. Maybe it was a tough period in school, a difficult job, or a relationship that was falling apart. Back then, it felt like the world was ending, like you'd never make it through. But here you are, standing on the other side of it, looking back. Isn't it funny how those moments that seemed so overwhelming at the time now feel like just another chapter in your story? It's a reminder that no matter what we're facing today, it will eventually become a part of our past, something we can reflect on from a place of strength and resilience. What if, in the middle of your current struggles, you could tap into that same sense of perspective? What if, instead of getting lost in the day-to-day stress, you could rise above it, even for just a moment, and see the bigger picture? The Stoics believed that by practicing this mental zooming out, we can navigate life's challenges with more grace and calm. So, what would it be like to approach life's ups and downs from a higher vantage point? Could that shift in perspective help you find peace, even in the midst of chaos? Number 5, the strength in shared struggles, suffering together. Picture this. You're sitting around a table with a group of close friends or family members. Maybe it's a holiday dinner or just a casual gathering on a quiet evening. As the conversation flows, someone opens up about something they've been struggling with, a tough time at work, relationship problems, or just feeling overwhelmed by life. At first, the room falls silent, but then, slowly, others begin to share their own stories. And before you know it, you're all nodding, laughing, and maybe even tearing up together, realizing that you're not alone in your struggles. There's something incredibly powerful about those moments, isn't there? When you realize that your pain isn't just yours, others understand it too. The Stoics understood the power of shared struggles. They believed that suffering is a universal experience, one that connects all of us on a deep, human level. Marcus Aurelius wrote about how we are all part of the same body, the same community, and that what happens to one of us affects us all. When we suffer together, we find strength not only in ourselves, but in the people around us. The burden feels lighter when it's shared. In modern times, we often feel pressure to keep our struggles to ourselves, to tough it out in silence. But the Stoics remind us that there is no shame in leaning on others for support. In fact, it's one of the greatest strengths we have as human beings, the ability to come together in times of hardship and lift each other up. Think back to a time when someone was there for you in a tough moment. Maybe it was a friend who sat with you during a breakup, a family member who helped you through a health scare, or even a stranger who offered a kind word when you were feeling down. Those moments stick with us, don't they? Not because they erased the pain, but because they reminded us that we didn't have to carry it alone. Now think about the times when you've been that person for someone else. Those experiences, both giving and receiving support, are what make life richer and more meaningful. So, what if, instead of trying to face life's challenges on your own, you reached out to the people around you? What if you allowed yourself to be vulnerable, to share your struggles and let others in? The Stoics believed that true strength lies in community, in the connections we build through shared experiences. Could it be that by embracing this truth, we could find not only comfort, but also resilience in the face of life's toughest moments? Number 6, the courage to ask for help, strength in vulnerability. We all know someone who seems to have it all together, right? That person who never seems to falter, who always knows what to do, no matter how tough life gets. Maybe you've even tried to be that person yourself, strong, independent, always in control. But here's a secret: even the strongest among us need help sometimes, and that's okay. In fact, it's more than okay. It's part of being human. There's a certain kind of courage that comes from admitting we can't do it all on our own, from reaching out and saying, "I need help." The Stoics, though often seen as champions of self-reliance, understood this deeply. They knew that true strength isn't about pretending to have all the answers. It's about recognizing our limitations and being brave enough to ask for help when we need it. Epictetus, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, spoke about how we are all interconnected and that no one can go through life alone. We are meant to support and uplift each other. Asking for help isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of wisdom and strength. It takes more courage to admit you need help than to struggle in silence. Think back to a time when you had to ask for help, even though it wasn't easy. Maybe it was something as simple as asking for advice from a mentor, or something as difficult as leaning on a friend during a personal crisis. At the time, it might have felt like you were showing a part of yourself you didn't want anyone to see, the part that wasn't perfect, the part that was scared or unsure. But looking back, don't those moments of vulnerability stand out as some of the most important? They were moments of growth, of connection, of realizing that you don't have to have all the answers, and that's okay. What if, instead of seeing vulnerability as a weakness, we started seeing it as a form of courage? What if asking for help was a way to build deeper connections and become stronger in the process? The Stoics believed that acknowledging our need for others is a key part of living a full, meaningful life. So the next time you feel like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, what would happen if you allowed yourself to share that weight with someone else? Could that be the strength you've been looking for all along? Number 7. Stay true to your path, avoiding the trap of comparison. Imagine this. You're scrolling through your social media feed, and there it is, someone's new promotion, a picture-perfect vacation, or the flawless selfie that makes you question everything about your own life. You feel that little pang, that nagging thought that says, "Why don't I have that?" We've all been there, caught in that moment of comparing ourselves to others. It's almost impossible to avoid in today's world. But here's the thing. What if I told you that the path you're on is uniquely yours, and comparing it to someone else's is like comparing apples to oranges? There's no race, no finish line where we all have to arrive at the same time. The Stoics taught that comparison is a thief of joy, and that staying true to your own path is one of the most liberating things you can do. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, reminded us that we each have our own role to play in life. It's not about who has more or who achieves success faster. It's about living in alignment with our own values, at our own pace. The Stoics believed that we should focus on what we can control, our actions, our thoughts, our reactions to life's events, and let go of everything else. What someone else has or does is beyond our control, and letting it dictate how we feel only brings frustration and anxiety. So why not turn your gaze inward to your own journey and trust that you are exactly where you need to be right now? Think back to a time when you were younger, maybe just starting out on a new adventure, whether it was school, a job, or a personal goal. Back then, it was so easy to get caught up in what others were doing, who was excelling faster, who seemed to have it all figured out. But looking back now, can you see how much you've grown in your own way? Those moments when you stayed true to yourself, even when it felt like everyone else was ahead, were the times you built something meaningful. You might not have had the flashiest life, but you had something better: authenticity, growth, and a path that was entirely your own. What would it feel like to let go of that urge to compare, to walk your own path, trusting that your journey is unfolding exactly as it should? The Stoics believed that each of us has a purpose that is uniquely ours, and that focusing on someone else's path only distracts us from fulfilling our own. So the next time you find yourself in that trap of comparison, what if you paused and asked yourself, am I living my life according to my own values or someone else's expectations? Could staying true to your own path be the key to finding peace and fulfillment? Number 8, embrace impermanence, the fleeting nature of life. Imagine the changing seasons, the vibrant colors of fall, the crisp air of winter, the fresh blooms of spring, and the warmth of summer. Each season brings its own beauty, but none of them last forever. That's what makes them so special. Life, in many ways, is like the changing seasons, constantly shifting, never staying the same for too long. There's something beautiful about that, isn't there? The idea that nothing is permanent, that everything is in a state of flux, gives life its meaning. It reminds us to appreciate the moments we have, knowing they won't last forever. The Stoics embraced this concept of impermanence, believing that the fleeting nature of life is what makes it precious. They taught that everything, our possessions, our relationships, even our own lives, are temporary. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about how we must accept the inevitability of change and death, not as something to fear, but as something that brings clarity and purpose to how we live. By accepting that everything is temporary, we free ourselves from the constant worry of losing what we have. Instead, we learn to fully experience each moment, knowing that it is unique and irreplaceable. Think about the people and places that have come and gone in your life. Maybe it's an old childhood friend, a beloved grandparent, or a house you once called home. At the time, it felt like those moments would last forever, didn't it? But as time passed, those things faded into memories. And while it can be bittersweet to think about, there's also something comforting in it. The realization that life moves forward, that nothing stays the same. It's a reminder that the pain and difficulties we face today will also pass, just as the joys of the past did. What if, instead of clinging to the idea of permanence, we embrace the fact that everything in life is temporary? What if we allowed ourselves to flow with the changes, rather than resist them? The Stoics believed that accepting impermanence brings a sense of peace and liberation. So how would your life change if you started viewing each moment, each relationship, each experience as fleeting? Could this shift in perspective help you live more fully, with greater appreciation for the present? Number 9, transform adversity into strength. Facing life's challenges. Think about the last time life threw you a curveball. Maybe it was a job loss, a breakup, or a health scare. At the time, it probably felt like the end of the world. But here you are, still standing, still moving forward. Life is full of challenges, but every time we face adversity, we have a choice: to let it break us or to let it make us stronger. And the amazing thing is, more often than not, we rise to the occasion. We find strength we didn't know we had. Isn't it incredible how resilient we can be? The Stoics believed that adversity isn't just something to endure. It's something that can be transformed into a source of strength. Epictetus, who was born into slavery and faced immense hardship, taught that it's not the challenges themselves that define us, but how we respond to them. The Stoics viewed obstacles as opportunities for growth, a chance to practice resilience, courage, and wisdom. They believed that the more we face challenges with a mindset of strength, the more capable we become of handling whatever life throws our way. In their view, adversity isn't an enemy, it's a teacher. Think back to a time in your life when you faced something you thought you couldn't get through. Maybe it was a personal loss, a failure, or a setback that seemed impossible to recover from. But somehow, you did. You found a way to keep going, to rebuild, to come out the other side stronger. And now, when you look back on that time, you realize it wasn't the end of the story. It was a turning point. Those experiences, as painful as they were, shaped you into who you are today. Isn't it amazing how the things we once feared would break us actually end up being the things that make us stronger? What if, instead of dreading the challenges that come your way, you started seeing them as opportunities to grow? What if, the next time life gets tough, you approached it with the mindset that this is your chance to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient? The Stoics believed that every obstacle is a stepping stone on the path to becoming the best version of ourselves. So, what if your greatest challenges are actually the key to unlocking your inner strength? How would that change the way you face life's adversities? Number 10, acknowledge your emotions. Don't suppress what you feel. We all have those moments when we try to push our emotions away, right? Maybe it's a day where everything feels heavy, but instead of sitting with that feeling, you distract yourself, scrolling through your phone, binge-watching a show, or pretending everything's fine. It's a familiar response because, let's be honest, facing emotions can be overwhelming. We've been taught in so many subtle ways that emotions, especially the difficult ones, should be tucked away or hidden. But what if the very act of acknowledging those feelings is the key to true emotional freedom? What if embracing them makes us stronger? The Stoics weren't emotionless, as many might think. They believed in acknowledging emotions, but not being ruled by them. For the Stoics, emotions are a part of life, and to deny them is to deny reality. Marcus Aurelius, in his writings, often reminded himself to face his emotions head-on, but with reason and understanding. It wasn't about suppressing sadness or fear. It was about recognizing those emotions, processing them, and then letting them go. The Stoics saw emotions as a natural human experience, but they didn't let them control their actions. By acknowledging your emotions, you can start to control how you respond to them instead of being consumed by them. Think back to a time when you tried to ignore or suppress your emotions. Maybe it was during a breakup, the loss of a loved one, or a major life change. You told yourself to be strong, to hold it all together. But deep down, those unacknowledged feelings were still there, bubbling beneath the surface. Now looking back, can you see how avoiding those emotions didn't make them disappear? They found other ways to show up, didn't they? Maybe in your mood, in how you treated others, or even in your health. And when you finally allowed yourself to feel them, there was a sense of release, a weight lifted. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. What if, instead of running from your emotions, you learned to sit with them, to accept them for what they are? The Stoics believed that emotions, when acknowledged, lose their power to control us. What could happen if, the next time you felt sadness or anger, you didn't try to push it away but simply observed it? What if you allowed yourself to feel without judgment or fear? Could acknowledging your emotions lead to deeper self-awareness and peace? Number 11, the power of stillness. Finding calm in chaos. Imagine for a moment that you're sitting by a calm lake. The water is still, the air is quiet, and everything feels peaceful. Now imagine that same lake during a storm. Waves crashing, wind howling, chaos all around. Life at times feels like that storm, doesn't it? With work, family, social pressures, and the constant stream of information from every direction, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. But what if, in the middle of that storm, you could find a sense of stillness? What if you could create a space of calm, even when everything around you feels chaotic? The Stoics believed deeply in the power of stillness. They taught that, in the midst of life's chaos, we should strive to cultivate an inner calm. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the idea of retreating into himself, finding peace within his own mind, no matter what external circumstances he faced. For the Stoics, stillness wasn't about escaping life's problems. It was about facing them with clarity and composure. In a world that constantly pulls us in 1,000 directions, finding moments of stillness allows us to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. Stillness is where wisdom and strength are born. Think back to a time when everything around you felt chaotic. Maybe it was a moment when your responsibilities were piling up, or when life threw an unexpected challenge your way. At first, you might have felt overwhelmed, like you couldn't catch your breath. But then, there was that one quiet moment, a walk in nature, a few minutes of deep breathing, or simply sitting in silence, where you found a sense of calm. That stillness, no matter how brief, gave you the clarity and strength you needed to face what was ahead. It's those moments of calm that often help us navigate the toughest storms. What would happen if, in the middle of life's chaos, you could find that sense of stillness more often? What if, instead of being swept away by stress and anxiety, you learned to pause, breathe, and find calm within yourself? The Stoics believed that stillness is a practice, something we can cultivate over time. So how might your life change if you made stillness a priority, even in the busiest of times? Could finding calm in chaos be the key to living with more clarity and peace? Number 12. Accept life as it is. The wisdom of embracing fate. Have you ever found yourself wishing things were different? Maybe it's a job that didn't turn out the way you hoped, a relationship that ended unexpectedly, or a dream that just didn't come to fruition. We've all been there, caught in that place of frustration and disappointment, wanting life to be different than it is. But what if, instead of resisting reality, we learned to embrace it? What if, instead of wishing for things to be different, we accepted life as it is, with all its unpredictability and imperfections? The Stoics had a powerful concept called amor fati, which translates to love of fate. It's the idea that we should not only accept the things that happen to us, but love them, because they are part of our unique journey. Marcus Aurelius wrote often about accepting life as it is, without resistance. He believed that everything happens for a reason, and that by embracing our fate, we find peace. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" the Stoics would ask, "How can I use this to grow?" It's a mindset shift that turns every challenge, every setback, into an opportunity for wisdom and strength. Think back to a time in your life when things didn't go as planned. Maybe it was a situation where you fought against reality for a long time, wishing things were different, feeling frustrated that life wasn't going the way you wanted. But then, at some point, you reached a place of acceptance. You stopped fighting, stopped resisting, and simply let go. In that moment, didn't you feel a sense of relief, a lightness, as if a weight had been lifted off your shoulders? Looking back, can you see how that acceptance allowed you to move forward, to grow, and to find peace in the situation? What if, instead of resisting the challenges life throws your way, you learned to embrace them with open arms? What if, instead of wishing for things to be different, you accepted them as they are and looked for the lessons they hold? The Stoics believed that by embracing our fate, we unlock a deeper sense of peace and fulfillment. So the next time life doesn't go as planned, what would happen if you practiced amor fati? Could accepting life as it is, with all its ups and downs, be the key to finding lasting contentment? And there you have it, a deep dive into the timeless principles that can guide us through life's uncertainties. The strength to face challenges, the courage to accept what we cannot control, and the power of stillness are not just abstract concepts. They're practices we can bring into our everyday lives. If you're watching this far, drop a 100 in the comments, because it shows you're one of the rare few who actually finish what they start. That's a true mark of someone serious about growth and self-improvement. If you're committed to transforming your life and embracing these powerful ideas, then make sure to subscribe to our channel. Join a community of like-minded individuals dedicated to living with more clarity, peace, and resilience. Stay with us as we continue to explore ways to empower you on your journey toward becoming the best version of yourself.